Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
It's 10 o'clock and it's time for our event to kick off. Thank you, everyone who's here already. Thank you for joining in. You're all welcome. You're all welcome. Technical team, do I have your confirmation that we're good to go? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I have the confirmation that we are good to go. And once again, I welcome everyone to today's meeting. This is the Nigerian Bar Association Section on Legal Practice, Family Law and Child Rights Committee event. Today, we'll be looking at managing conflicts in family relationships, the role of associations of lawyers. Once again, I welcome you all. I'm happy to see my chairman, the vice chairman, some panelists, and I'm trusting everyone will be here on time to make their presentation. Thank you for joining in. Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you very much. I see the numbers increasing. And if I would attempt to establish some protocol, that would be to first acknowledge the chairman of NBA-SLP, Chief Ferdinand Obe, Knight of St. Gregory, SAN. You're very much welcome, sir. Technical team, if you will unmute the chairman, I think he's already responding to the greeting. I acknowledge also the vice chairman, chairperson, Mrs. Boma.
Nancy, please, we cannot hear you.
Technical team. Can I get the confirmation that we can all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now, ma'am.
Thank you. Please, technical, if you would do the needful so that we don't have this repeating itself. Thank you. Thank you very much. So following on establishing a protocol, acknowledge the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section on legal practice, Chief Ferdinand Obi, Knight of St. Gregory, SAN, the vice chair, Mrs. Boma Alabi, officer of the Order of the Niger, SAN. You're welcome, ma'am. I believe I also see the secretary, Professor Agom. You're very much welcome. And all officers of the NBA-SLP, welcome to today's event. I thank especially also our panelists who were here on time. Professor Bambose, I want to believe I pronounced that correctly. Also, Alozie Echon Esquire.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
You're welcome, sir. I believe I am, and Mrs. Amina Abaje, a panelist, I see you. Thank you very much for joining in. You're very much welcome, ma'am. And I recognize my chairperson, as I will always call her, Mrs. Ezinwa Okorafo. You're welcome. National officers present, we welcome you to today's event. Thank you for joining. And as I particularly see you sign in, I will make mention and give the necessary acknowledgements. If I would proceed to set some ground rules, we have made this occasion an interactive one, but we must caution that we maintain the necessary decorum. You are able to unmute yourself, but in the event that it becomes disruptive, the technical team will do the needful. Lawyers are on holiday now, but it's another opportunity for us to interact. You can exchange your private messages, but be careful to not send what is private and should be directly sent to a participant to the general forum, because everybody would see it then, and it will be very distractive as well. So Christopher Daniel. Without much ado, it will be time for us to have a proper welcome and opening remarks from the chairman, Nigerian Bar Association, Section on Legal Practice, Chief Ferdinand Obi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Sir, if you'll unmute yourself, we are ready for you.
Thank you, Lady Chair. Good morning, everyone. The topic for today is managing conflicts in family relationships, role of lawyers, role of associations of lawyers. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you to this webinar organized by the Family Law and Child Rights Committee of the Section on Legal Practice of the Nigerian Bar Association, ably led by Mrs. Nancy Obinwa. The family is the primary and arguably the most important unit of society. It is the foremost social unit designed to engender support and complete well-being of its members. Every family member ought to feel safe and secure in the home with others. Conflict, however, is inevitable in human relationships, and there are various reasons why conflicts exist. In fact, my people have a saying that every relationship is an invitation to quarrel. However, it is the capacity of associations of lawyers to manage these conflicts that makes the difference. The family setting has its peculiar conflicts, and if these are not managed well, the consequences can be dire, sometimes resulting in the death of a family member. Lawyers in their individual capacity have often stepped in to manage these conflicts. Our focus today, however, is on the capacity of lawyers as associations under different names and their efforts in supporting the family unit in conflict situations. How much have our associations done? What should they be doing? What can be done to avert dangers of prolonged unresolved conflicts in the family that have impacted negatively on the society? Our panelists are erudite lawyers in relevant fields in this discourse. They are experienced in human relations and relationships, and are leaders of associations of lawyers committed to the service of humanity and the well-being of the people. So I have absolute confidence in their ability to deliver on this topic, so I will not preempt them. And that's the reason why I will not answer the questions that I have posed. They will offer us invaluable insights as we take this opportunity to investigate the subject of conflict management in family relationships and the possible role of the Association of Lawyers in that regard as we strive to ensure a better society. I invite you all to listen intently and attentively, enjoy the deliberations, and take something away for the benefit of your practice. Once more, I congratulate our committee and I thank them, the members, for organizing this webinar. I wish you very fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. That was indeed a very well delivered opening remarks. It sets the tone for what we're about to hear this morning. I won't even attempt to unpack it because I trust our panelists to do justice to this topic. We often hear in the news very sad stories, people losing limbs and lives because of unresolved conflicts in the family. Are these things we should be quiet about? Is it hush hush? Should we not talk about them? Should we not find a solution? Is there nothing we can do as individual lawyers and as lawyers in a group who have pledged to serve humanity? The panelists we have selected today, they haven't only, like the chairman has said, worked in the field of law and faced their practice for the business of the practice, but have also devoted time to do pro bono matters, pro bono counseling, pro bono work for humanity. They are interested in the well-being of the people. And so today I'm not in doubt that we will be richly, richly blessed. Let us interrogate that topic and know, when is a push a shove? When have we gone too far? Because at the end of the day, it becomes public news. That very thing we're trying to hide, it's out there in the open. So today we will be looking at that topic and seeing what extra can be done, what has been done so far, what more can we do? I will now welcome our first speaker for today, and she'll be introduced by Christopher Daniel. The technical team can launch the poll just before she starts her presentation. Our speakers are happy to examine this theme from various perspectives. Paper delivery, using a slide, just talking to the paper itself will be most appreciated in any form, but let's get this conversation started. Chris Daniel, please introduce our first speaker for today, Professor Oluyemisi Adefunke Bamgbose.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, Professor Oluyemisi Adefunke Bamgbose, SAN, is a professor of criminal law, criminology, and human rights. She's the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation, and Strategic Partnerships, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. She's the first female professor of law in Nigeria to be conferred with the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria in September 2018. She is the immediate past chairperson of the NBA Women Forum. She is a widely traveled scholar with a strong interest in women and children issues. She is a fellow of Salzburg Seminar, Austria, and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Professor Oluyemisi Adefunke Bamgbose. She speaks on the topic given to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. I really want to thank you for inviting me. I thank the chairman of the association for inviting me. And Nancy, thank you very much for inviting me. When you look at the issue of conflict, I'm going
Did we just lose our speaker?
Yes, when you look at the issue of conflict, I'm going to be looking at it from the point of view of the Nigerian Bar Association Women's Forum. You know, there are different causes of conflict. We know that I wouldn't go into definition of a family. I wouldn't want to go us with that. But when you look at this issue of family, you look at it that we have the nuclear family, we have the extended family. And if we look at it from the African perspective, it's as if everybody is related, because I'm sure I'm related to Nancy in one way or the other. So we are all related. And when you also look at it that in a community, it's not that a child or somebody or a wife belongs only to that family in which she's married to. You see that from the African perspective, we look at the issue of family from a larger perspective. And if you look at the issue of family conflict, there are many things that can cause family conflict. Conflict can be between the husband and the wife. Family can be between the in-laws. Family can be between relatives. And conflict can also be amongst siblings And conflicts can also be between the parents and the parents and the children. So we look at disobedience. We look at selfish or greedy attitude. We look at difference in personality, especially husband and wife. They were not brought up together in the same family. So when they come together, they have different personality and belief systems. We have financial challenges, communication failure, unmet need. Oh, this wasn't what I was expecting. And then we have parenting issues and so many other factors. But I will be looking at how we can resolve this family conflict and how the NBA Women's Forum has resolved this. If you look at the NBA Women's Forum, it's an arm of the NBA and it's controlled under the NBA. It's under the NBA Constitution. And the purpose of the NBA is to empower female lawyers for success. If you look at this thing and you look at the topic we are having today, empowering a female for success, how can she be empowered when there is conflict all around her? In the NBA-WF, we have 9 committees. We use the committee system, and we use this committee system to empower the female lawyer. Now, through advocacy, you can resolve conflict through advocacy, and that we do. We make statements, especially where there has been a conflict. Within a family, within an extended family, you can denounce this. You can make a statement and say no to it. We also created a help desk, especially where we have domestic violence. Nancy just talked about people losing their limbs, people even dying, and we don't want such. As much as we don't want to meddle into family conflict, there are areas and instances in which if you do not do anything, there will be crisis and there might be death. So we have a help desk in case somebody needs urgent attention. Then you can use the help desk, which are advocacy committee headed by Mrs. Folashade Ali. She's here, and you can call so that there can be intervention to tell you what to do and how we can get to the situation. Also, in terms of advocacy, we also have seminars. We try to tell our female lawyers what to do in case of conflict and what to do to avoid conflict. Avoidance is better than managing. When you tell a person how you can avoid conflict, and we can do this through seminars. We have seminars that we organize so that we can tell them how you can control yourself. There are situations you find yourself that you don't need to aggravate those situations. Also, we have a mentoring committee, and this mentoring committee is very important for us. We have also webinars in which we talk to our female lawyers about what to do in cases of conflict. We also have this mentor-mentee program, and this is very important, especially when you do not know what to do. In this program, we have our senior members of the bar, our senior female members of the bar, who will mentor just about 5 mentees, female lawyers in their state. We do not encourage, we're not saying that our young lawyers should not have mentors in other states, but this particular program, there are mentors in your particular state, very near you, so that if you are having some challenges, it's somebody you can go to, somebody you can easily talk to. Now, one thing we have also done in the NBA-WF is this speak up. They say sorosoke. We encourage people that you speak out. Don't bottle up, because most of this conflict arises when you are bottled up a lot of things within you, and then you explode. When you are able to speak out, you are able to speak to somebody, somebody is able to advise you, your mentor is able to advise you, the temper and the boiling up reduces. And this speaking out, or the sorosoke, when you say sorosoke, many people, we use that term. You have a blue eye, and you tell people that, oh, it was when NEPA or IBEDC took off lights that you ran into the wardrobe. All these things will not occur. And then we also have this, we've done this mentorship program in Oyo, Rivers, Jalingo. We are going all around the states to ensure that we do this. Now, another thing that we have done is that we have flyers to encourage. If you see many of our flyers when we are having a mentoring program, you will see this picture of a senior lawyer on top of a ladder trying to help the junior lawyer up the ladder. And this is very important. One thing also that has caused conflict is, I said, unmet expectation. Oh, you are a lawyer, you are not able, a female lawyer, you are not able to meet some expectations. And one of the things that we have also done, for example, during the MBA conference, the one we held in Port Harcourt last year and the one in Lagos, we had CRESH established. And this is very important, because when you have things, when I talk about unmet expectations, you want to go for a conference, you cannot go because you are saddled with a baby or whatever, and it bottles up because you look at your husband and you say that, oh, my husband is going for this conference, assuming that you are both lawyers. Both of you are supposed to go for the conference, and the man dresses up, he goes for the conference, you have to do school run, you have to do this and that. And we looked at it that it can cause conflict, unmet expectation. And we decided that during this program, CRESH will be set up. And we had successful conferences in the two states, because people were able to take their children to the CRESH, and they were able to. Another reason why we have conflict, and one of the things that we've used to manage it, is that when you are in a position to help, especially where you are in a position of authority, to help other women, please make sure that you help other women to make sure that they're able to cope. There's this proverb, and I think it's a saying, just as I round up, that it's when you have not been to somebody's father's farm that you think that your father's farm is the biggest. When you think that, oh, all the problem is on you and nobody else is going through this problem, it's one of the things that people do that, especially I'm talking about our young female lawyers now. I'm not saying that it's only young female lawyers that have problems. Even senior female lawyers have problems. But when you talk to other people, and in the Women's Forum, we do that under the mentorship. We have platforms under which you bring up your problem, and other people are able to talk to you about it. So while I stop here, I want to say that in the NBA Women's Forum, we've been able to put up some programs, we've been able to do advocacy, and we've been able to do webinars and set up even structures that will curb and manage and help in handling family conflict. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you, Professor Bambose. Excellent time management, addressing the issue head on. And what did I keep hearing? Your tools for managing conflicts: advocacy, seminar, and you believe more in avoiding it, making sure it doesn't even happen, than dealing with the aftermath. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, ma'am. And then the mentorship program. That's excellent. Mentor, mentee. And of course, you pointed out that it is not always that it's the junior colleagues that have such challenges. I mean, the problems are everywhere, and it can happen to both the senior and the junior, but if we are focused on supporting one another, then it's easier to deal with. Thank you so much. And the Sorosoke in the Nigerian community is also in the MBA community. Really, we can't be there to assist others if we ourselves are not able to support one another. So our beauty is from home. We're starting within. Well done to the MBA-WF. Awesome work going on there. Thank you so much.
No, not
that
much.
was a very practical delivery. I'm sure questions are flying in, and you will be here to answer the questions when they come. Thank you so much. Thank you. I acknowledge the presence of one of our panelists who has just joined in, Professor Abdul Kadir Ibrahim Abikon. We welcome you to this event. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And yes, you're welcome. Please be also informed that this program is being streamed live on YouTube, and the link is in the chat room. So if you are not comfortable at all with this Zoom platform, you're very much welcome to go on the YouTube and share the same link with other people in your contacts. Thank you. Without much ado, we'll be welcoming our second speaker, who is Professor Ibrahim Abdulkadir Abikon. Sir, you're welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me.
Christopher. Chris, if you'll introduce our second speaker. Chris Daniel.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Professor Abdul Kadir Ibrahim Abikon is the president of the Muslim Lawyers Association of Nigeria, MULAN. He is a fellow of the International Institute for Muslim Banks, for Muslim Unity, IMU, and International Association of Islamic Banks, Karachi, Pakistan. He has vast experience in law of corporate management, Islamic banking, finance and commercial transactions, Islamic business ethics, and Islamic investments. His achievements include Scholar, BUK, 1993 to 1995, Best Muta, BUK, 1996, Rector's Fellowship Award, IIU, Malaysia, 2006. He is happily married and is blessed with children. Please make welcome our speaker for the next topic.
Very good morning. Very good morning to everyone. I want to appreciate the organizers for inviting me to be part of this very lauded program. I want to acknowledge our able Professor Bami Goshe for that wonderful presentation. Thank you. And yeah, Professor Bami Goshe has said most of those things. And if you can please share my slides. I think you have the slides can be shared then.
Yes, please, technical.
Yes, please.
Share
Let me share my slides. You see that some of those things being said by Professor Bami Goshe are part of what I've mentioned in the slide. So that has solved part of my problem in this presentation. So I will be focused on few areas that may be of difference. Now, the introductory part, I brought an image of different form of conflicts. that can be between husband or wife. It can be among children, like he said, or colleagues. And it's not a matter of age, sex, or religious background or ethnic backgrounds. It's everywhere. Conflict is everywhere. And the second slide, I was trying to say that conflict is as old as man. Now, for those of us who have some religious background, you appreciate that the interaction between Adam and the angels at the time of creation, that's where conflict started. When God asked the angels to bow for Adam, having shown superiority in knowledge. You can, I made reference to verse of Quran where you can find that. I tried to look at the biblical content for that area, but I saw some book, not direct quotation of that interaction between Adam and the angels. Now, shortly after that, procreation started within the family of Adam, and another conflict started immediately after between Cain and Abel. You can find that in Genesis 4:3-8, that interaction, and that resulted in the first killing on the surface of the earth. Okay, so we will not bore you with the definition of a conflict. As you can see there, is when two people or group of people disagree, and disagreement causes friction. So it can be on anything, like Professor Ms. Bangbushe have said, and factors could also be because of personal personality of individual. Somebody is short-tempered naturally, and you have this other guy that's very jovial, always cracking joke. That alone, if the two of them have to interact, that personality between that each of them is known for can also bring conflict until they learn to study and appreciate one another or each other and give some compromises. Okay, learn to know that this guy, this is what makes him angry, and the jovial guy will have to know the area of the kind of joke he cannot make with him. Now, the next slide, I was talking about conflict in family settings. Now, you have misunderstanding between husband and wife, among the children, in the extended family. In fact, in our African setting, it becomes more complicated when you have in-laws, sometimes even living within a nuclear family setup, okay? In-laws, maybe mother of the wife have to live with the family. And I have a friend that he was sharing his experience that sometimes decision to be taken would have been concluded between the mother and her daughter, and it will be imposed on him, okay? And that brought some conflicts that they really needed to resolve. Sometimes as a result of envy, that somebody is more successful and the other person is not very happy about it, and it brings some strain in their relationship. Now, I'm looking at it from global perspective, okay? You have conflicts arising among people as a result of resource control. And one of our vice chancellor was sharing this with me, that in most places where you have conflict in a global perspective now, resource control is always at the center, okay? Now, changing family condition. Sometimes it is happiness that you are sharing within family, naming ceremony, marriage, and you still find people disagreeing, fighting at a moment that's supposed to be a moment of happiness for everybody, okay? So it doesn't matter that you are in a happy mood or in a sad mood, conflict can come at any time, okay? Now, how to resolve this conflict? Now, from Islamic perspective, conflict is reduced when all participants in any relationship appreciate the purpose of establishing that relationship. And in this case, we are talking about family. What is the essence of creating family? I made reference to verse of Quran chapter 30, verse 21, where God was saying, among his signs is that he created for you wives from among yourselves, that you may find tranquility in them. He has put between you affection, mercy, verily, that indeed are sign for those who reflect. Now, if you look at the parameters in this quotation, that appreciation of the fact that every member of your family is part of you, because we are from the same source, from Adam and Eve. So if that appreciation is there, and you appreciate the purpose of God asking you to establish family, that you want tranquility from your wife, from your husband, and there is love between you, okay? There is mercy between you. So fuller appreciation of this, even at a time when you have differences, and you have recourse to think back about what's our purpose, you see this as the general thing that you put in front of you that will always reduce conflict situations. Now you can extrapolate this to children, larger society. Now, resolving the crisis within the family. Now, again, from Islamic perspective, we look at resolution of conflict from the perspective of the principle that Islam has laid down. Okay, Quran chapter 4, verse 35 is saying that when you notice that there is friction within a particular family, the principle is that it should not be unnecessarily externalized. And the verse was saying that raise a wise man or a wise woman from each of the family. Now, in this case, somebody that the wife or conflicting party respect from their different family to look into it and resolve it. Now, in doing this, the parties must be ready for resolution, because if there is no readiness from the parties, now the tools to adopt is fairness, justice, internalization, like I've just said, that you don't unnecessarily externalize family conflict, readiness to make peace, empathy, positive communication, understanding, and giving benefit of doubt. Now, in any conflict, these tools are very necessary to get to the end of conflict. Now, as Association of Lawyers, Muslim lawyers, these principles are what guides intervention whenever there is a conflict, whether as association. Now, you find yourself, if you go to our courts, sometimes just meet a case of a couple wanting to depart. They have asked for divorce from the court. Now, applying this principle, what an Islamic court will first say is to tell them to ask all these questions, whether members of the family have made an effort to resolve the conflict. And on the first occasion, if they go to court, the court will still refer them back or ask them to bring some people, elders. Now, as an association, it's part of the policy of Muslim Lawyer Association that either as individual, when those cases are referred to us, or you meet such a case in the court, the first thing, and as amicus, is to make an attempt to intervene. I was in court sometimes, and there was this case of divorce. And I asked the court to give me permission to look at the matter. And the court adjourned. Before we left court that day, in the open glare of other people, we were able to resolve that matter. We were able to identify where the problem lied. And in fact, the wife, I was there, the husband had to go and buy food for the husband. They have been apart from each other for some months. Now, before we ended that session, there's this particular family again. A man approached me and said he came to apply for divorce of his wife. But because of what he has witnessed, he will want me to please intervene in his case. He did not file that case again. And he gave me numbers of people to call within their family. Now, the point we have made here is that as an association, we are not just looking at it from perspective of members of that association alone, because if you resolve within your association, the global community of people of your belief or humankind generally will still have that problem. So we look at it from this global perspective. So we also talk about advocacy, that for individual lawyer, you advocate for minimizing conflict within the family, and whether on self or even on our clients. Now, by also avoiding being legalistic in family matters. Now, I have to mention this because as lawyers, you appreciate that conflict is not just about matter of rights. And that's why I want to say this. Sometimes we had issue with female lawyer association. We sometimes advise that please, they should not handle conflict issue as a matter of women matter alone. Because sometimes this emotion is there that a fellow woman is being harassed and rest. So they look at it from this emotional perspective, and that's what I mean by being legalist. So they were talking about, I've had the experience of a friend, a lawyer, the wife is also a lawyer, and there was this conflict situation. Association of lawyers came into it, particularly the women association, and the case became so bad that it became almost irredeemable. Now, as organization, establishing family counseling unit. Now, this one is very rare in our society. Counseling unit, pre and post-marriage counseling unit. And as organization, although we have it around in some religious organization, but nothing also stops us as organization of lawyers to have this. What you normally hear among lawyers is they just announce notice of wedding without knowing what they have gone through in terms of counseling. This will go a long way in reducing the conflict situation amongst, and collaboration. Yes, I am not aware of the strength of this collaboration among different organs of our association. There is the high time we'll begin to do it. FIDA, Molan, Catholic Lawyers Association, and the rest of them. There should be collaboration on this area of family counseling, and we share experiences. In conclusion, we said the establishment of family unit is one of the core settings that epitomizes the intellectual superiority of mankind. The purpose is for it to be an abode of peace, tranquility, love, and mercy for all the members, and for raising subsequent generations that will ensure continuity of human existence. The nature of human being and differences in their idiosyncrasies make the family system to be prone to conflict. Yet, adherence to the essence of its creation and entrenchment of fairness, empathy, positive communication, etc., are key to reduction of its conflicts to the barest minimum. Lawyers and their professional associations are most suited to take the lead in this direction, but only if they will avoid being legalistic, at least for a moment. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Prof. Very well delivered. And I hear a few things from what you have said. It's really interesting to know that there is a call for some form of collaboration, that different groups with similar objectives can come together and do meaningful things to help the family unit. The family unit is the primary unit of every society. If things are bad there, then it's just going to have multiplier effects on everything else. Mental health has become a real issue. If people who are members of a family do not have the support they need within the family, they can't get it in the field. If they are being battered at work, at play, everywhere else, at home is where they should get all the support they need. Today's theme is really an important one that we should examine. And I'm particularly glad that there were real life experiences shared by the prof. Every matter shouldn't lead to litigation.
Thank you.
Because the truth is, sometimes when we think that divorce or separation is an answer, it just throws out another type of conflict. We are now dealing with step parenting, stepchildren, parenting styles from different homes. The conflicts just doubled. Our technical team just launched a poll. I would encourage us to participate, and we will take the result and share afterwards.
What are you hungry?
Participants, if you can see the poll that has been launched, please go ahead and make a choice. Once again, thank you, Professor Abikon, for that well-delivered paper. We would now invite the country vice president, national president of the International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA Nigeria. Chris Daniel, if you would give a fuller introduction to that, so that she will join us in interrogating this from a different perspective. Let's really know how managing this conflict can help for a better society. Chris Daniel, please do the introduction.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Mrs. Amina Susanna Agbaje, the country vice president and national president, International Federation of Women Lawyers, Nigeria, FIDA. She's a revered FIDA leader and an astounding human rights activist. Please make welcome our third speaker.
My CVP, you're welcome. I know you like to keep it simple, but we know you're loaded with experience and we can't wait to hear what you have to share with us. Just before you begin, let me also welcome Mrs. Evelyn Membre Asemia. She's the Deputy National President, Deputy CVP of FIDA Nigeria. You're welcome. Mrs. Amina Agbaje. Participants with questions and comments, we welcome them on the chat room. We're taking note of those who have already sent via email questions on the topic, whether arising from the presentations already made or just by looking at the theme for today's event. Welcome your questions in the chat room. Technical team, is Mrs. Amina Agbaje unmuted to make her presentation?
Good morning. Good morning, Nancy. I'm sorry, my network suddenly went off. I don't know what happened. But first of all, let me appreciate most profoundly the chairperson of the NBA-SLP Family Law and Child's Rights Committee, Nancy Obinwa, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and the experiences of the International Federation of Women Lawyers gathered over the years in promoting and defending the rights of women and children. Permit me also to thank you, Nancy, and your team for the topic that you have chosen for discussion at this Zoom meeting. And as mentioned above, the topic centers on the core mandates of the International Federation of Women Lawyers and on the protection of women and children. Now, for us to have a better society, for all to live in, conflicts must generally continuously be addressed, particularly family conflicts, because the family is the bedrock of the society. Like other non-governmental organizations that focus on the family, women and children, the International Federation of Women Lawyers over the years has committed itself in ensuring that conflicts are resolved in family. FIDA does this through its litigation and mediation department. So conflict resolution, even though conflict resolution can be difficult, messy, unpredictable, this sounds like a great reason to avoid any type of confrontation. But in any type of relationship, you know, offenses must come. There must be a conflict. Therefore, the myth is that avoiding conflict equals peace, when the actual fact is resolving this conflict equals peace. So avoidance of confrontation in conflict, when you see it as a coping, is it a coping skill? It is not a healthy coping skill. So avoidance only lengthens the resolution process, and if not resolved, it leads to unhealthy behaviors. Unhealthy, unresolved conflict between unmarried partners can be caused by a lot of factors, ranging from an unhealthy ego, patriarchy, financial challenges, and so on and so forth. And when abuse is involved, it is also classified under our laws as intimate partner violence. In effect, it has effect on members of the family, and it can lead to trauma. It gives psychological difficulties, and most time, you know, it leads to abuse, whether verbal, physical, emotional, psychological, and so on and so forth. In FIDA Nigeria, we resolve conflict between partners through mediation, like I've said, and that we conduct in our office using the mediation tools and mechanism. We go to court when it becomes necessary. We also provide safe haven in the form of a temporary shelter for the victim, who the woman involved. And this is to also, we do this to provide a sort of protection and also prevent further conflict in the home. In FIDA Nigeria, all across our branches in the country, members have gone through different trainings on alternative conflict resolution processes, particularly mediation and counseling. FIDA Nigeria has a continued legal education committee at the national level with the sole responsibility of training and equipping FIDA Nigeria members with skills and best practices to enhance our work in women and children's space. The CLE has a faculty with eminent resource persons who are in the academia, professors. We have at the national level, it is headed by our own Professor Felicia Anoku, and who they have a resource center that has resource persons, and from this resource center, they pull out resource persons to conduct mandatory training at all our quarterly meetings. And then we also issue certificate of participation. Realizing the importance, of training, FIDA Nigeria has, in our bylaws, we have in our uniform bylaws, we have engraved it, or we have sort of institutionalized it so that it is something that it is mandatory for all our members, and it is something that we pay deliberate and we're intentional about. This is to grow, to increase the work that we do in this area. Usually, by way of process, a team comprising of 3 or 4 members is constituted, and then parties are invited for mediation and counseling in our FIDA branches. In most cases, the conflicts are between married couples, unmarried partners, or even children from such relationships. And this is the time to also say that we're also happy to report that FIDA Nigeria has recorded a lot of success stories, in this engagement. Now, I have been mandated to focus on conflicts, in a family setting with unmarried partners, causes, effects, and dangers of unresolved conflicts. Now, let me just begin by saying that conflict in a family refers to active opposition between family members because of the nature of the family relationships. It can take a wide variety of forms, including verbal, physical, sexual, financial, or psychological. Unmarried partners, on the other hand, refers to 2 persons, and in this, in our Nigerian context, it means a man, a male, and a female living together in a relationship akin to marriage for some period or for some time. It can also be defined as an arrangement where 2 people who are not married live together. It often involves a romantic or sexual relationship on a long-term or sometimes on a permanent basis. It is no longer a secret that more couples are living together in a sexual relationship without marriage, and therefore we must pay attention to it. We shouldn't pretend about this. Some call it experimental marriage, and let me quickly state that the rate of unmarried relationships in Nigeria is on the increase. So most times the relationship also produces children. And as mentioned earlier in this presentation, family conflicts are inevitable. And if they are inevitable, we must equip ourselves with skills so that we can confront the issues head-on, particularly that we want to have a sane society. And so this is a conversation that must continue, just like we are sharing experiences with other organizations in this webinar. So what are, if by way of a question, if I may ask, what are the causes of conflict among unmarried partners? You would say that we're not married, but why are we having conflict? The first point that I have identified is the lack of defined boundaries. Unmarried partners are those who come together, they live together with no defined boundaries. And it is common, as it is commonly said, you know, healthy boundaries produce healthy relationships. And if you lack boundaries in any in any relationship, it's an invitation to disrespect. Consequently, unmarried partners face a lot of disrespect for each other, causing conflict in the marriage. The second factor I have brought out is usually partners hope to formalize this relationship, you know, soon, but before you know it turns into years, and then it breeds conflicts among them. The cohabitation drains, you know, emotions. There is waste of time. It weakens partner's will. You know, it weakens the partner's character. Morality is tested. Virtue, discernment, and sense of judgment. You know, hence all these, you know, conflicts come. The third one I have brought out is also poor communication skills. When partners are not communicating rightly over time, a partner feels unheard by the other partner, distance sets in, then small quarrels are left unresolved, and consequently, they become problems. There is also the issue of abandonment of responsibilities. This usually is a huge problem and challenge for us in FIDA, particularly because it involves, you know, children. There is also infidelity and multiple partners, and general misunderstanding. If you're not communicating well, there's bound to be misunderstanding. While every relationship encounters misunderstanding from time to time, there are some relationships that are plagued. So, there's also extreme emotional reaction to
Please, I apologize, Mrs. Aminawaje. I'm sorry, for the last 30 minutes, we didn't hear you. Our technical team, they're having challenges. Please, can you unmute her? We just need you to repeat what you, in the last 30 seconds, sorry. The last 30 seconds, we missed it.
30 seconds. Okay, what did you say, Nancy?
For a minute, we couldn't hear what you were saying. So if you will be kind enough to repeat what you just said, you know, in the last few seconds.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. And I said that let's not pretend about this. You know, top two things, you know, that cause conflict, whether be it with married partners or unmarried partners, is sex and money. This will continue to rank as the top two reasons why partners fight. And I've also talked about domestic violence. And I said that when the value of something is not known, abuse is inevitable. Now, the fact that partners are not properly married in itself creates disadvantage for the couples and the children from the responsibilities that they are supposed to meet. And then I've also brought out the issue of child abuse, you know, in this conversation. Now, looking at the totality of our presentation, the presentation made by Professor Bangoshe, the presentation made by Professor Abdul Kadir, I believe that I got that right. You know, it has effects on members that we are talking about. And in my own, for my own topic, it's, you know, the effect it has on this unmarried couple. What are some of these effects? The effect is obviously psychological trauma for all involved in this relationship. And this psychological trauma is unimaginable on the male, on the female, and even on the children that are product of this relationship. There is also dangers of unresolved conflicts. When you have a conflict that you have not taken time to resolve, it leads to something more dangerous. And then, what are some of those things? It leads to abuse. It leads to infidelity. It leads to violence, because you want to express yourself in ways that you think, is appropriate. And then I have also talked about negative effect on the children of the union. And if we must continue, if we must have a sane society, then we must take care of our children. We must be intentional and deliberate in the moral and proper upbringing of our children in the society, so that we can have a healthy society. Non-marital parenting is an unsuitable environment for a child's development. There is a high risk of breakup. And these are some of the challenges that we're living with now. We have domestic violence. We have we have death. In some cases it leads to death, and we have clear examples, that have taken place that have taken place for not too long, that we are still dealing with. So for us as an organization, as the International Federation of Women Lawyers, what do we do at FIDA to reduce family conflicts? While it is good to talk about problems, while it is good to bring up, to talk about challenges, it is better, for us to talk about solutions. And so for us in FIDA, as a way of contributing our own quota, and as a way of raising our voice to this conversation, what do we do? We have said that we do mediation, we do counseling, and this we will continue to do. Once we do this, because we do this because we realize that unresolved family conflicts as a major cause of sexual and gender-based violence in our society. And so FIDA must continue to do the following. Another thing we have brought out, we said that in some, we go for litigation. In some cases, we go to litigation. And this special litigation team that FIDA Nigeria has raised was established, in the year 2020, because we realized that as an organization of the need to have a team of dedicated researchers and litigation lawyers who will take up class action matters on behalf of FIDA Nigeria or jointly with other parties. The team was successfully involved in the case of public interest case on the affirmative action on the 5 rejected gender bills. We have also written opinions on behalf of the association on the legal implications of discriminatory actions against women. For instance, the refusal to appoint the present CJ of Cross River State on ethnic grounds. The committee was also recently constituted, and we intend to institute 1 or 2 public interest cases on discriminatory laws against women and children. And so we move on to advocacy. And for us in FIDA is advocacy, 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 advocacy. We must continue to talk about these things. We must continue to speak about these things until we move from rhetorics to action. People have heard it again. People have heard it before, but hear it again. We'll continue to speak about it. And the next one is that we'll continue to do is sensitization programs. The next one is networking and partnering with critical stakeholders, sharing experiences and strategies, just as we are doing, with Mulan, with Class 1, with the NBA Women Forum, and so on and so forth. And then we'll continue we'll continue in training, capacity building for gatekeepers and communities on the peace, family relations and conflict resolution, and so on and so forth. Now, these are some of the thoughts, that that we have brought to the table. These are the work that we do at the International Federation of Women Lawyers. And sometimes the attitude to be holier than thou, is there. You may think that because these are not couple that are married, legally married, therefore they should still in their own doing. No, because we must live in a society that is sane, and there are things that are going on wrong in the family setting. There are things that are going on around us that are negative to the well-being of the society. We must pay attention to it. And the best set of people, to pay attention to, is amongst women lawyers, who are responsible for moral rebirth in every society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Amina Abaje. I wasn't expecting anything less. It was a very passionate delivery. And of course, highlighting again the objectives of FIDA: protection, preservation, promotion of the rights of women and children. Thank you so much for that very well delivered speech. We have launched again the poll. I would expect that participants would make their choices now on the poll. Ms. Amina Abaje in her presentation has highlighted the work that FIDA has been engaged in and will continue to do: mediation, advocacy, counseling, and with many success stories. One thing that was particularly outstanding there in her delivery was the need for boundaries in relationships, especially for what we'll call civil partners, people who are not married, but have decided to come together and raise a family. If boundaries are not established, then the confrontation could escalate and it will present a serious danger to family members. Thank you so much for the work you do, capacity building, especially for gatekeepers in our society. Because like I said earlier, everything doesn't have to end in litigation. There are things that can actually be resolved. We talk about alternative dispute resolution all the time. There is commercial arbitration, and we can also have family arbitration. There are different ways to approach managing the conflicts in family relationships. Thank you so much for that presentation. There are several comments coming in and questions as well. But all the questions would wait, excuse me, till we have heard from the last speaker, not the last speaker, the fourth speaker. I think it's better said that way, who is the person talking on from another perspective on this theme for today, is Mr. Alozie Echong. Chris Daniel, if you would make that introduction. And I encourage everyone who has not done what he or she should do on the post to immediately do so, because when we move into the presentation, it won't be available anymore. Thank you very much. Chris Daniel, please make the introduction.
Okay. So our fourth speaker, Mr. Alozie Echong, is a lawyer practicing in Port Harcourt and a member of NBA Port Harcourt. He is also the 9th president of Christian Lawyers Fellowship of Nigeria, Class 1. He's a certified trauma healing facilitator. Please let's make welcome Mr. Alozie Echong as he takes us on the next session. Thank you.
Am I being heard?
Yes, I can hear you.
Loud and clear. Apologies again. My apologies, technical team. Something is off somewhere. We can barely hear Alozie Echonwo Esquire.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear up to when I said that I'm grateful to the preceding speakers for almost starting the road? They've done the clearing and everything. Did you hear me up to that point?
No, please, if we'll just start again, we would appreciate it. Our sincere apologies.
Okay. I've said thank you to our organizers. Thank you for giving us the platform to speak to the subject. I've also said thank you to Professor Bambushe, Professor Abdul Kadri, and Mrs. Abaje for having cleared the road, cleared the forests, bulldozed it, and have started asphalting already. In fact, they've created a good road just for me to walk on. So thank you very much. You've done a good job. Now, I'll just add one or two points to the issue of the causes of conflict. The first I want to add strongly is personality disorder and mental health. Some issues, conflicts that arise in the family is because of mental issues, personality disorders and mental issues. You can't quite put any sort of rationality to it. It's just that the human beings are broken. The system is broken. And you find this among kings, you find it among judges, you find it among ministers, clerics. Some people are just broken. So that another thing is people's history. If a person grew up in a situation where toxic conflict, domestic abuse was tolerated, there's a possibility, very high possibility, that such a person will reenact those things. Now, so that dovetails into development issues, human development issues and adaptability. It also dovetails into environmental factors. Environmental factors can shape people into being conflict agencies. May I also state clearly that drugs and addiction happens to be responsible. Addiction to alcohol, addiction to Indian hemp, addiction to cocaine, addiction to hard drugs. I'm comfortable to mention the Indian hemp because the NDLE in Nigeria still classifies it as a drug. If somebody tells me it's medicinal, well, it could be, but in Nigeria, you would recover not in an asylum, but in a prison yard. So NDLE still considers it. Now, there are issues of taboos also that cause conflicts within the family system. Let me not go into too many details, but taboos have created enduring conflicts. When incest occurs within a family, in some of our cultures, it is not just limited to the consequences are not just limited to the people, but the perpetrator and the victim, or the people who consented to such. When others get to know, sometimes it leads to death. It leads to so many things. Maybe I should also mention that some conflicts within our families are caused by metaphysical factors, dreams and all that. A professor was telling me something that caused conflict in his house, how his father, who is a chief, simply woke up and accosted some people in the village and said, you have to do a sacrifice and then you have to pay me a ransom for sleeping with my wife. I saw you in the dream sleeping with my wife. That's metaphysical. And a lot of people have woken up from dreams and have, from their experience in dreams, have caused conflict here on earth. What does class fund do? How does class fund intervene? Class fund intervenes in 3 layers. And I hope I could summarize those 3 layers quickly. Class fund intervenes in an institutional manner. Class fund does direct intervention, not necessarily cased as an institution. And then class fund then equips its members to intervene. Now, in fleshing it out, the other speakers have helped me flesh it out. When you talk of, yes, they've helped me flesh it out. So I'll just build on the similarities and also state a few unique ways we handle ours. I wouldn't categorize them that way, but when when I proceed, you can find reading between the lines and see the two. Now, institutionally, class fund has 2 directorates that directly deal with conflict issues within the family, within the Christian community, within the church system, and beyond. One is our Directorate for Dispute Resolution and Counseling. It provides capacity and services to churches and individuals, and also to our members. And this has been ongoing for perhaps close to 18 years now. That structure has been there and has been servicing the system. Now, there's also a second institutional structure in class fund. It's also a directorate, which is known as our Directorate on Church Collaboration. It does advocacy too, and it's been around for 15 to 18 years. It's had to learn the ropes. It's had to do several interventions within class fund, within the church community, and the general society. Now, what further do we do? We train members to provide value-sensitive services. You know, I'll give you an instance. For instance, in making testamentary dispositions, helping people write wills, make devices. We're encouraged to bring proper values into it. Let a will be written in such a way that the man passes on, the testator passes on, and nothing disturbs his grave. So in guiding people make such, I'm just stating this as a specific intent. Rather than a man who has 3 children, and the 3 children are always disagreeable, maybe from even the same mother, why give them a common property? Perhaps why even leave a property for them? Dispose your property while you're alive. And if you have something to leave for them from that property, you share money to them. They hold their money individually because you know the character of your children. There are others that are more congenial, and there could be 50 children from 10 wives, and they can cope and manage a property jointly. So Class 1 equips its members to look critically at the kind of services they render to people so as not to sow seeds for future conflict. Now, in our conferences, family matters are embedded in all our conferences. If you attend any Class 1 conference, there will be training, there will be seminars, there will be content on dealing with family issues. So it's embedded there. We believe in redeeming values of forgiveness, forbearance, and we teach that and we allow that to seep into what we do. Class 1 promotes strong pastoral guidance for abusers and the abused. We advocate trauma healing and professional counseling for victims and abusers. Do we partner with other organizations? Yes. We've partnered with several organizations. That even reminds me that in one of such partnerships, FIDA promised me membership, and I'm yet to get my membership number up till now. So before conflict starts between myself and Mrs. Agbaje, Professor Bambushe, please settle it for us because we are a family. So we partner with other organizations, and Class 1 remains open to partner with many more organizations. I could keep going on, but it'd just be adding to the same template that we've had the distinguished speakers talk. But allow me to say something. And it's about the abusers. It's about the people who perpetrate conflict. If we just deal with victims without properly handling people who are vectors of violence, we may not reduce the problem drastically. Generally, what do we do as lawyers? When victims come to us, we take decisions for them. That's our default mode. The default mode for a lawyer, it's somebody comes to you, complains about a thing, you are the expert, so you begin to take decisions for them. And sometimes we take decisions in respect of families, we take decisions without competence. The natural thing to do again is to seek revenge for victims. We report to the police, we begin an action in court. We bash their religious backgrounds. We just bash their religious backgrounds and bash their religious institutions without being sensitive to the contributions of these religious institutions for the development of humanity. Our religious institutions have done far more than government can ever do for the common man. And then we don't quite activate safety mechanisms for, no safety mechanisms are activated. You're intervening in a domestic violence situation without activating a safety mechanism. Maybe during the question and answer time, maybe when we're discussing, people would make contributions to that. And I'll even encourage people who've suffered from this to speak up. It's time to speak up. Now, sometimes as lawyers, we think we are the professionals. Not exactly. Several people who come to us need our professional service, but our professional service is less than 10% of what they need to be holistically healed. Sometimes our legal capacity, our legal competence will only help resolve a physical situation or an economic situation. But there's the psychological, there's the sociological, there's the emotional, there's the spiritual. So sometimes we end up complicating the situations for the victims, and the victims. Professor Abdul Kadir had done a good work when he expanded the scope of the victims. It includes children, it includes everybody living under the household. And sometimes beyond an immediate household, it goes to the community. Professor Abdul Kadir had done a very good job on that. And sometimes, just as lawyers, simpliciter, belonging to an organization of lawyers, because of the pain that these things generate, we end up stigmatizing people. We talk down on people. And of course, one of our greatest strengths is the ability to use words and bully people. We do it even to judges. We do it to colleagues in court. Bullying is toxic. And but unfortunately, it is something. So we stigmatize villains and we stigmatize victims. I was about talking on this issue of the abuser, and I'll end with that. We need to help abusers understand that they have a problem. And it's not by bullying them, it's by reasoning with them. Listening to them, reasoning with them, and getting them to come to a point where they understand they have a problem. We need to help them trace the root causes of their problems. Is it addiction? Is it alcohol? Is it a family history? Is it, because when you know the cause of a problem, it's half solved. We need to encourage them to get professional help. Usually we're not equipped to deal with an addict who needs professional help. Anger management. Lawyers are not trained to help manage or to equip people to handle anger. So we need to encourage them to seek professional help. The best you can do is identify the professional help, identify where they can get resources and send them there. Don't monopolize and then support them to get help. One thing is just to point them to get help, to encourage them, but you can physically support more by escorting somebody to go get help. Some of us need to see psychiatrists. Some of us need to see psychologists, and support them also and help them to invest and cultivate trust by showing demonstrable changes. Okay, class fund, of course, will always pray. So when we find people in this kind of situations, we pray. Have we had cause to go to court, support people in court? Yes. When it's necessary, that should be done. And we don't limit our support only to victims. We also extend our support to perpetrators. We give them the right kind of support needed for them so that society can be a better place. Drugs and alcohol contribute to abuse. However, even sober people cause conflicts in families. So it's not just limited to drugs and addiction and alcohol. Violence within the family is not a private matter. And that's why you have laws governing them in our statute books. They're not private matters. Some of those things end up as criminal matters. Homicide, if somebody kills a relation, it's not a family matter. If somebody fights and causes grievous bodily harm. It's not a family matter any longer. So abusers must take responsibilities for their abuse. We must be able to help people take responsibility, abusers to take responsibility for what they do. Domestic abuse rarely stops without external intervention. So we have to keep improving our skills for external intervention. It rarely stops. And maybe I should say this, that somebody is an ice water at work in his office, that somebody is an ice water, very behaved outside, doesn't mean that he is not a conflict vector or an abuser at home. Thank you very much. I think I'll stop here. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Alozie Esquire. I was wondering what would have happened if the pathway had not been bulldozed. I was about to issue a time up this time around, but then it was so interesting and very profound. And so I thought to just join others in listening to the very end. Thank you so very much. You have really pointed out a whole lot of things in your presentation. Now you have taken us from the physical terrain we know to the metaphysical. And indeed, I have looked into the chat room. A number of our colleagues do agree with you that people dream and wake up and then see their partners, their children, their parents as their enemies who must be eliminated one way or the other. We have also given a rundown of what Class Fund is able to do in managing conflicts in family relationships. That is a wonderful job going on there. Thank you so much for the contribution you have made to this discourse. Our chat rooms are bursting with comments and questions. But before we go into that, I also want to recognize and welcome Mrs. Mianaya Essien, SAN, to this meeting. And everyone else who joined afterwards, you're very much welcome. As I see you here, I would make the necessary recognition. Thank you so very much again, Mr. Alozie. That was a full paper delivery. And participants are asking if they can get copies. Yes, you can get even the recording of today's meeting. So far you have registered, be assured that you would have the recordings and any paper deliveries made, slides or paper to your inbox. So expect that after today's meeting. I'm sure a few of our executive committee members would want to make contributions before we go into the question and answer session. And Professor Abikon, I know you are scheduled for a flight. I hope you're still here because there are questions that have come in and seems actually directed at your presentation, other than people asking for copies of your delivery. They would also want to have you answer some questions. So at this juncture, I would want to invite, if she has a contribution to make, Mrs. Buma Alabi, SAN. Okay. Before we hear from her, if she's still here, a look at our poll. The majority have given their answers and we can all view it. We have identified as major challenge from this poll the issue of change in financial circumstance. So money, according to a greater number of us here, is the major reason for family conflicts. We also identified in-law related conflicts, and then communication failure. Interestingly, infidelity doesn't even score highly today. But in practice, it does appear that that is an issue, and a very strong one. But today's poll tells us otherwise. So we'll take that for now and see how we progress before the end of today's meeting. If I would read out some questions now and have our presenters, in no particular order, attempt to answer questions posed by participants, other than appreciating, saying thank you for excellent deliveries. They have questions. Oh my gosh, there are just so many of them. Okay, this question is, can we escalate the recommendations the panelists have offered to meet the challenges like security, education, economic health, industrial relations of our contemporary society, since the family is the mini society? Let me read the full comments with the question. I bet it will make more meaning. Great topic and very valuable insights by the distinguished panelists. Can we escalate these recommendations to meet the challenges? Challenges are the security, education, economic, health, industrial relations, etc., of our contemporary society, since the family is the mini society. If these recommendations can work for the mini society, can we replicate in the Nigerian society? I don't know which of the panelists would want to take on this one. Professor Abdulkadir Abikon, if you're here. I think this came immediately after your presentation.
Nancy, maybe I'll take that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Manadese.
I think the answer is very simple, that the answer is yes. If if family is the smallest unit in the society, and we as Nigerians, we all belong to a family, and one way or the other, as I said, we might be related. I think these recommendations, if we bring them into the larger Nigerian society, it will solve many of our problems. We've talked about not being selfish. If our leaders are not selfish, there won't be conflict. All these riots that we're having, all this instability we're having, and then if we can sit down and understand each other, then there won't be all these problems we're having in the bigger society. Unmet needs. We say that unmet needs, it's another problem. So if we meet the needs of people within the society, and we won't have all these conflicts we're having in the larger Nigerian society. So I think some of these recommendations, if we can imbibe it in the larger society, it will solve many of these problems in Nigeria. Thank you.
Nancy?
Yes, please.
Just to quickly add to what Prof has said, this year we had the Nigerian Bar conference, that just ended, in last month, and the topic was bold transition. to give credence to what we are doing today, it will be good for us to articulate the issues, to articulate the points that have been raised by the reason of this webinar, and then present it to NBA, because we know that the platform that NBA stands on is a very, very strong platform. And of course, it has a very strong voice. And who better can push, what organization is better to push these issues forward, to be on the larger, to be on the national discussion platform, but the NBA. Therefore, it will show that we are not bold, we are not only bold, but we are ready to transit, in creating a society that is ready, to deal and manage with conflict, healthily.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Abaje. That point is well noted. It's well noted. We will articulate and see how we make the presentation to the NBA. Do we have other speakers, panelists who would want to make a contribution on this?
I think as usual, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. As usual, Prof and Mrs. Abaja have cleared the road. So let me work on what they have cleared. You see, truth be told, if we all have the skills to deal with conflicts at home, it is easier to transmit those skills to the public space. It is the failure of the right skills to deal with resource control within family units, even among lawyers. Check our court dockets and you see how many wills made by lawyers are being contested. Father lawyer, late mother lawyer, they're in court. So if we apply these things at home and we're able to succeed in resolving most conflicts at home, it is only natural that these things will be transmitted to the larger society. The family remains the foundation of the society. So a lot of things that are poured out into the outer society actually flows from what was drunk at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's incisive. We have a question here. Now it's shifting to the aggressor. How can an abuser who is the breadwinner be helped when he or she refuses to accept external intervention and the victim still wants to remain in the family? How can that be helped? How can such a situation be helped? Because this plays out every day in real life. There is clearly a conflict that can escalate and be life-threatening. And then a party in the family, the question here is referring to the breadwinner. Sometimes it's not even the breadwinner. I've seen children wanting help, seeking intervention, but parents are not interested, whether children are minor or adult children. And then the next thing we hear, it's in the news, somebody has died. It has become a more serious, thing. It's no longer a family affair. There is crime involved. And who wants to go?
With your kind permission, if I could intervene.
Please, thank you.
Unfortunately, Professor Bambusha, Mrs. Abaja, and Professor Abdul Kadir have refused to clear the road. So I have to walk on a virgin road myself now. Now, you see, when it comes to domestic conflicts, domestic violence, because the situation you've painted is that of a breadwinner. So I'm taking it to domestic violence. Which is a small component of, conflict generally within the home. Now, it has 3 stages. Okay, there's a stage where things are calm, and then tension builds, and then an incident occurs, maybe a slap, a kick. I'm dealing with the issue of a physical abuse, not the financial, not the economic, not the psychological, but even the psychological also follows that pattern. Now, the best time to intervene is not when tension is building up. The best time to seek for help, for the victim to seek for help, or somebody to help the abuser, is not when tension is building up. Is not when the incident is about to occur. I don't want to be very specific, but there are 2 scenarios you would remember here in Nigeria and one outside Nigeria, where a partner sought to leave the scene of incidents and it didn't end well. Somebody died. So don't wait until an incident before you notify some significant orders. Don't suffer in silence. But when should you approach significant orders? When there's calm, when he has bought you a new car, when he has bought a new wrapper, because those are tokens of appeasement. I keep telling women, I'm sorry, but I keep telling women, don't jealous fellow women for driving new cars. That might be an appeasement to show that the husband still loves her after a thorough beating. So it is at that time of celebration, he's in a good mood. That is when you should look for a significant other. That is when you should look for a counselor. But when the tension has started building up, and again, remember that this thing, sometimes it's because of personality disorders, mental health issues. The person may have been abandoned by a mother in childhood, or the mother died. So at that time when tension is building up and a wife begins to raise issues and he thinks this woman is about to abandon me, he would do the unthinkable. So I think I've made the point. Seek help, because abuse rarely stops without external help. It rarely stops. It rarely stops. It's a forgive me, say at some level, it's a sickness. It won't stop until there's an intervention. And when he came to marry you, he came with some people. I'm sorry, I'm making it sound as if men are not being abused. Yes, men are being abused. When you went to toast her, you went with a friend to help you because you're not good in communication. The friend helped you tell her, there's a mango under the bush. Now, get somebody she can listen to early enough.
Nancy.
Is there an intervention?
Yes, Nancy, can I just add a bit to what Alozie said?
Okay, just a minute. Mr. Alozie, have you rounded up your contribution?
Please, I yield to Prof. Please, Haba.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I thought he had finished. Mr. Alozie,
yes, Prof.
I salute you. Thank
I hope
you
my
very
coconut
much.
rice is waiting in Ibadan because I will come.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Mrs. Amina Agbaje, thank you very much, and Professor Abiko. I just want to add something. I now want to go on the way that Mr. Alozie has cleared now. He has bulldozed the way now, so I will follow him. I really want to agree with you that you have to tread gently. And it is not when things have escalated. I'm not saying that when things have escalated and you missed the point when you should have, but did not, you should not now go and report. You should go. Yes. But at that point, when he slapped you and gave you something, you better seek help. I know of a woman, and you know what Mr. Loze just said now, it's something that is happening. A woman had a nice glasses, reading glasses, and somebody was envying her that, wow, these glasses are so nice and everything. And the woman said, I pray. And she said, I wish I could have like your glasses. And the woman said, better pray you don't have like my glasses. What led to these glasses was because I caught my husband cheating, and the cheater slapped her and broke her glasses. And by the time the husband got home to say that he was sorry, bought her one of the most expensive frame glasses he had never seen. And some people were envying her. But this story ended well because they are well together. But I want to talk about this abuser and the victim. We need, and it's very important in the African society, that we have people, respectable people we can talk to. I was the immediate past director of the Women's Law Clinic in the Faculty of Law, University of Ibadan. And we had a case of a young Muslim girl married to a very old religious Muslim man. And she was pregnant and she wanted to run away. And they said she couldn't run away. And she said she was going to kill herself. So they brought her to the clinic. What we immediately did was to call the imam in the University of Ibadan, because we didn't understand whether, if we say that she can't run away, who owns the baby, whatever. We didn't understand the Islamic aspect of it. And it was the imam that we quickly called, and the imam came and settled it and said that she has the right to go. And that when the baby is born, the baby can be brought back. So instead of her killing herself, and then we have conflict at hand. So when we have conflict like that, for the abuser, for the victim, we can call those that are involved. So if it's a religious leader we don't understand, we should call it. And if it is another family member, just let me chip in something else. And even we can call cultural and traditional leaders that understand. Once in the Women's Law Clinic, they brought a case to us, a man who got a young lady pregnant without marrying her, and the lady died. And they told us, the family came and said that the man must marry the woman. And we were asking, which woman? She's dead. And they said it's their culture, that he must bring bride price. We said, for who? They said, for the dead woman. We did not understand this thing, and we had to call some leaders, and they said tradition and everything, but they settled it. It would have resulted in family conflict. So please, it is important for the abuser and the victim that we call relevant people to intervene. Thank you.
Nancy, let me quickly add that I'm happy the way this conversation is going, in the sense that Alozie has spoken and he has taken the religious, he has brought out the religious dimension. And Professor Bambushe has also brought out, the traditional, and the family values that we share to the fore. But the dimension I want to take is that having done step 1 and 2, we should not shy away from inviting relevant security agencies, to take action. This, we have the laws, we have it embedded in our laws, particularly with the VAP Act, where there is intimate partner violence. What do you do before you call somebody from the family, before you go to the church, or before you go to the mosque? What do? You can actually go to the police station. You can actually approach the courts, so that you get some protection. And particularly with the emergence of the VAP Act, you can actually go to NAPTIP. NAPTIP has a very, very resourceful and vibrant response team that in such situations, you can call them and they will evacuate, you know, the partner who is the violent one. So I think that while we're religious, while we're traditional, you know, we must also activate the law to work for us.
Yes, thank you very much for that contribution. That nails it. So the approach is from every angle possible, whatever can be done to manage conflict effectively. The religious way, the legal way, counseling, and of course, when the authorities have to be involved, we'll do that. I see the chairman raising her hand. I suppose he wants to make a contribution, as well as Professor Beacon. So I will take my chairman first, and then we'll come back to you, Professor Beacon.
Yes, thank you very much for recognizing me. My question is to Professor Bamboshe. And it's focused on the perennial conflict between mother-in-laws and daughters. The irony of the whole thing is that those who are daughters-in-law today, when they too become mothers-in-law, the thing continues. Or as the labor leaders, we say the struggle continues. And it's very disruptive. Sometimes it ends in irretrievable breakdown of marriages. What is the cause of this? And are there possible solutions? Over to you, Prof.
Is it Professor Bamboshe you are referring to?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for recognizing the fact that you are a daughter-in-law today, you will become a mother-in-law. And one thing I always tell people, and let me just use this analogy. I tell men, when I'm addressing men, I tell them that if any of you that will want what you are doing to your wife presently, that it will happen to your daughter in 100 folds when your wife gets married, please raise up your hand. Then you hear them murmuring. And nobody wants to raise up the hand. I said, then that means that you know that what you are doing to your wife now, to do it to your daughter, you would not want any man to do it to your daughter. And the same thing should happen when we are talking about a daughter-in-law, mother-in-law. What you will not want that will happen to your own daughter in your own home, or what you will not like to happen to your own sister in our own home, do not do it to another person. When we love each other, when a mother-in-law, I don't think except a mother-in-law who is wicked, that you will love what you are doing to your daughter-in-law to be done to your own daughter in another home. Try and understand that. Oh, she's spending so much, or she's behaving in a particular manner. Try and see through the eyes of your own daughter. Try and see through the eyes of this particular young girl, how you can help her, how you will help your own daughter. You are not out to destroy that home. And as you are growing up as a daughter-in-law, if you went through a very abusive relationship with your mother-in-law, know that when you become a mother-in-law, don't let the same thing happen, because you would have wished that your mother-in-law behaved to you in a particular way. So when you become a mother-in-law, try and behave in that particular way. Those are ways by which we can resolve conflict. Love, see the other person through your own eye, through the eye of somebody that you love, so that you will not create conflict. I had a very wonderful mother-in-law. I had it. And I always pray that as a mother now, I'm a grandma and everything. I love my daughter. I see her through the eyes of my daughter. The way I treat my daughter is the way I treat her. And the love is so much there. And I believe that if she too and my daughter can carry on that same thing, the world will become a good and better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bambose. I mean, we couldn't have put it in a better way. If you can see it through a particular lens, it helps. Put yourself in that position. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you, isn't it? Okay. Chairman, I want to believe that your question was well answered.
Oh, she did justice to the question.
Thank you.
Prof.
Can I please add a word to the situation?
Yes, you will. Just after we've heard from Professor Abdul Kadri. His hand has been up for a while now.
Okay, thank you.
Have we lost him? Is he still there? Professor Abdul Kadri? Okay, please, Mr. Echon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the indulgence. The Leonard Sook, Chairman, Chief Obi.
Yes.
Thank you for your question. I think the major problem between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is the boy, the husband. It is a war between two breasts, the one he sucked first and the one he's sucking now. So if he can't balance the power, there's a problem. It is the man that holds the key. When we are weak men or we are poor in leadership, that is the problem. Now, remember that the man formed a bond with his mother long ago, and that's a mammary bond. It's a very strong bond. Now, that he's now a full man, that bond had controlled him for a long time. So many of us are what we are today because of the contributions of our mothers. It was mama that begged daddy to send us to school. It was mama that made sure when we were going to school, she had arranged an extra pocket money to add to us beyond what daddy had given. If you were in the days of cornflakes, then it was mama that went to the market to buy the cornflakes. If she couldn't afford cornflakes, there was a wrap of kpokpo gari. And that touches the heart. That kpokpo gari may look, but look, it penetrates the heart. So I think there's a responsibility on men to stop playing boys, to rise up to the two powerful women and draw the boundaries. If a man draws the right boundaries for his wife and knows my mom must be respected, I think she would follow. And if a man draws a boundary that my marriage is sacred, the mother will respect that boundary. The two women are very important in a lifespan, in a man's life. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't add anything to that, explicitly said. So if Professor Beacon is here, please would want to hear from you. Other than that, let's hear from our secretary, Professor Agom.
Thank you very much for having me back. Well, I just want to emphasize on the area of our being legalistic. And I'm happy that Mr. Adozi mentioned something like that. That the dimension of resolving family conflicts, that lawyers can take just about 10% of it. So there are so many organs of our society that are involved. The immediate family, they are very important. And he mentioned along the way that when this couple are to meet, they have friends, family members who they went together for introduction and the rest of it. They are very important set of people to be considered. Now, when it comes to being legalistic that I mentioned, lawyers assume that they can solve the whole of this problem, and it's very impossible. It's impossible. There's a case I'm handling. One of the participants of this program is much aware of it. That very young couple, they have just one kid, and
My apologies. If you're still speaking, Professor Adipo, we have
at a point by experts in mental issues to come into this matter. So if they're able to do that, a lot of conflicts in family will be resolved if we are not too legalistic about them and think that lawyers can solve the whole of the problem. There will be occasions where we need to go to our religious organizations and show that the religious organization can also solve some of the problem. And when it comes to legal aspect, we provide our legal solution to some of these problems. So this is just the area I need to emphasize that we should minimize. So there will be occasions, even the organizations, our own lawyer organizations, will need to just show that we can come into this religious organization as a segment of what they are doing. So I will just provide our services at the appropriate time. So this is the area I want to emphasize. So it's a whole society, not just about lawyers. So if we need to come together as lawyers, we should know the right time to do. The time we should mingle with other aspects of society and provide legal services. Now, Mr. Agbaje talked about the point to activate law. I think the point to activate law is the physical aspect. When it's becoming violence, because it is then that we'll be talking about rights, avoidance of violence, avoidance of harms. But in 90% aspect of it, we will not require activation of the law. So we should emphasize more on that area, and lawyers should know where to mingle with other aspects of society to solve the problem. Thank you very much. Sorry. Oh.
Thank you for that contribution there. Professor Gom. Okay, I see that Mrs. Amina Abaji still has her hand up. Can we have your contribution, please?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, panelists. Mr. Alozie, you have taken the words right out of my mouth, and that is to show that you are truly a FIDAN, so you do not need any more invitations. We have worked together, we have been working together for a very long time. And so I'd like to build on what you have said, in the sense that we cannot deny the fact that in every family, you find out that the boy is closest to the mom and the boy and the girl is closest to the dad. You know, there's a sort of exchange. And therefore, it is important that whether it is the girl or it is the boy that is getting married, let there be proper transfer, you know, of responsibilities. This we can do by raising our boys, our girls, you know, to treat one another with respect. Therefore, when it is the wedding of the boy, and then the boy is having a dance with his mother, you know, the mother should whisper to him that, look, from today, I am no longer the most important woman in your life. The most important woman in your life has been replaced by your wife, and this is she. You know, that way, when we are deliberate and intentional, you know, in demonstrating to our children that in practical terms, you know, this is an ideal situation, I think we will have a better society. And then for us, I like the way that Professor Bambushe put it, you know, that she had a very good relationship with her mother-in-law, which is fantastic. I also had the same relationship with my mother-in-law. Therefore, girls, our girls should equip themselves. We should also equip our daughters so that they will, as soon as they get married, they will snatch the mother-in-law from the mother of the husband. You know, they can snatch their mother-in-law by, you know, gaining her confidence, by being close to her, by doing the things that, you know, will make her feel comfortable so that she does not feel threatened. I think that these are some of the practical things that we will do and we'll have a better society.
Thank you very much. We got that point. We should snatch the mother-in-law from our husband. And we also hope that our husbands will also be actively snatching our own mothers as well, able to make for peace, anything for peace, anything for better management of conflicts, because they will surely arise. So yes, a good foundation helps us navigate through the relationships. We have so many comments in the chat room, and people have questions as well. Someone is asking, what is the fate of a child in the event of parental conflict that may result in divorce? I think this has been answered in some way, but is any of the panelists still wanting to, you know, throw in something on this one? Because when the elephants fight, the grasses suffer, isn't it? So how do we care for these children caught in between?
Well, maybe let me just chip in something. In whatever we do as parents, we should just make sure that we don't put the child in between. Because from experience, it has shown that whatever you do to the child today will affect the child tomorrow. And if we want a very healthy society, we must make sure that the child today is properly guided. And parents are advised that whenever there is a conflict, please just ensure that you adults, you do your own fighting, but make sure that you protect the child. And there is no point in calling the child to one side and saying something bad about the daddy, or pulling the child to your side and saying something to your mom about the mother. One thing we've come to realize is that the child in the future will find out the truth and will hate you for what you've done. I've seen it happen over and over. And the advice we give to parents that are fighting is that please don't bring the child in. If not, you will suffer for it. So if it's possible and the child can be removed from that environment, it will be good. But where you have a child that cannot be removed from that environment, the welfare, just like my sister, Mrs. Amin Agbaje said, the laws are there. If you are going to say that it will impact the child negatively, then you have to call the welfare. As bad as you don't want to separate them, if the family cannot do the needful, then you will now have to call the intervention of the law. But to appeal to parents that are fighting, that please think about this child and don't let this negative effect rub on the child. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have a comment here that I know some panelists address this, but somebody still says that she is worried about how our legal interventions can sometimes do more harm than good from a holistic perspective. So this is addressed to us as lawyers. We are here trying to envision a society free of conflicts in the family, because whatever happens to that primary unit has multiplier effect on the society, in the jobs that people do, wherever they find themselves in. Our participant here is worried about our intervention. Can we address that a little more? Do we intervene to escalate? Are we beginning to acknowledge the fact that we are lawyers and not exactly counselors if we don't have that training?
Okay, Nancy, I think that for us as lawyers, one of the things that this discussion has brought to the fore is the fact that we need to diversify. We need to understand that we are not counselors in the first place, we are lawyers. You know, therefore, we need to collaborate with other service providers who would provide the components that we do not provide. While we bring the legal aspect, we also need to sharpen our skills so that we can do whatever we're doing with a view to achieving results. And this is important because that is why we are having this conversation, because we do realize that we are lawyers, and because we are lawyers, we are contentious by nature. You know, we sometimes we bring self into it. Sometimes we bring ego into it, you know, and therefore that is why we're having this conversation to begin to map out what are we doing well? What are we not doing well? How can we do it better and then achieve a result that will give us a better society? I think if we appreciate that, that's then the whole conversation that we have had today, you know, we'll begin to say to ourselves that this we're not doing well, we need to drop. This we're not doing well, we need to drop. We need to bring XYZ to the conversation. We need to add so and so voice to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Awaje. Time is fast spent. Apologies for having kept us for this long. It wasn't in the plan, but the conversation has been very interesting, illuminating. And I'm just thankful for the wealth of experience shared today by our panelists. We really do appreciate you. We have our takeaways. We are lawyers. We are not all counselors, but we can develop that skill. From your clientele, you would know, should I do more? Should I diversify? Why not losing track of what you're really called to do as a lawyer, as an advocate? If you don't have the capacity to do more than that, you should be able to make the necessary referrals. The faith-based organizations that are lawyers as well, Lawyers Association, but faith-based. We presume that you have good relationship with various religious groups. Most times, these people who face challenges in relating with family members, their first call is to religious leaders. If we're able to let them know that it is okay to seek counsel and that such intervention shouldn't be a taboo, because the more things are covered up, they will eventually blow out in the open. And if it gets to court, it's public records. Everything that was hidden comes to limelight. So managing conflict as early as it arises is a good thing to engage in. As individual lawyers, as lawyers belonging to any group of lawyers associations that have that as part of their mission and objective, we should be able to utilize all that is within our reach to make for better living, for a better society. We must not forget that there is a legal framework that can be relied on in pursuit of peace in the home. The VAP Act is still very much there. The Constitution as well. Everything is not family affair. When it's time for interventions from authority, we shouldn't shy away from that. We have our many takeaways, and the chat room is really full with so many commendations for the panelists. As we wrap this up this morning, I am still just wondering if the chairman has anything else to say, and I would be inviting him to make any final comments before we have a vote of thanks by our vice chairperson for the committee, Prince Madojemu. Chairman, please.
Thank you very much, Lady Chair. I just want to, again, thank the participants for participating in this very, very fantastic webinar. And like you said, we all have our takeaways, and it's been a very rewarding experience. I just want to share this with you, a personal experience from the experience of a friend about being the man in the house that my good friend Alozie mentioned. He told me that when he newly married, there was so much conflict. The wife could not see eye to eye with his mother, and vice versa. And the way he solved it was, he called both of them one day and told the mother, you see this lady here, she's my wife. You are not going to stop her from being my wife. It's better you get that clear. Then he told the wife, you see this lady here, she's my mother. And nothing is going to stop her from being my mother. So the earlier you people learn to accept that fact and accommodate each other, the better it will be for all of us. He said that meeting was what solved the conflict. So there's no conflict without a solution. And that is what this webinar has driven home. Then finally, to council members who made out time from their very busy schedule to be with us, is gratitude and appreciation for your presence and encouragement. And I believe that other committees of LP will take a cue, because the Committee on Family Law, Child. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for those words. Is Prince Madojemu ready? Okay, I'll do the honors. My chairman has spoken, and indeed, it's been a wonderful experience this morning. I'm particularly very grateful to everyone who made out the time to be here today. Special thanks to the panelists. You did justice to the theme and the various topics assigned to you. Everyone is asking for a copy of what you have delivered, and I have assured them, they have told me they would hold me accountable. Yes, that's fine, we'll make that available. If not the papers, then certainly the recording, the video recording, you will get that. So this continues, honestly, let it be an ongoing conversation. Nothing is hush hush off limits. We should be able to face the challenges that come our way in the family units, so that we can be better people and we can make better contributions to the society at large. Thank you all very much. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you, technical team. I know we had our glitches, but we are here now. Thank you so much, everyone. I just can't thank you enough. Thank you for being part of this today. God bless you. So with this, we've come to the end of today's meeting, event, webinar, whatever we term it. Thank you also very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Madam Nancy. And I'm very sorry for the breakage in my participation. I told you I was traveling. So it was on my way to the airport that we're having such breaks. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. We appreciate the fact that you could actually make out the time. Thank you so very much. We're indeed grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Our pleasure. We learned a lot.
Bye-bye.
Every contribution very well captured in our chat room. It will all form part of our records. Thank you also very much, every participant. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. So much Thanksgiving going on here to our panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. See you all next time at our next meeting. I'm sure you'll be happy to attend again. It's a time well spent. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Princess. I see you. Thank you. Thank you for signing in. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Luyemisi Adefowoke Fadeke. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Flora. Thank you. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you. I bet the technical team would soon end this for everyone, but while they still leave us here, Isabel, thank you, and hope you will do something with what you have gathered today. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Marian Jones. Thank you. Okay.
Ma, I'm going to end the meeting now.
Thank you so much.